Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today I'm going to be talking about just all of the great news that the former president has gotten in the past week or so and how that's shaping the election right now. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. And so we see the former president is at 313 electoral college votes to Biden's 177 electoral college votes. And what's really fascinating about this, right, is that this is kind of my battleground map. And yes, states like Hawaii and New York and Delaware are all in my column because they are below 8-point victories in my demographic model, which I'm going to get to in a second. And we see that the former president already starts out with 313 electoral college votes. Funny enough, Georgia and North Carolina are in my safe ratings. I believe there is no chance for Biden to win Georgia and North Carolina this cycle, and I'm actually expecting Nevada to go into that column really too. The Democrats this year have actually reportedly gave up on the state entirely, and so the only reason why it's still leaning in my battleground forecast is because they've historically performed very well here. I mean, if you go here, Democrats have won the past basically 3 cycles here, essentially. That's how many cycles they've actually won here. The last time that a Republican actually won it was Bush in 2004. The past 4 cycles, Democrats have been winning it, but it has been trending back to Republicans ever since 2008, where Barack Obama won the state by 12.5. So that's also really interesting to see there as well. But we're going to be going over just kind of everything that's come out, essentially, and looking at what the shape of the race is and how Donald Trump has put deep blue states like New Mexico, Minnesota, Virginia, New Jersey, New Hampshire, and Maine at large in play, especially a place like Virginia that voted for him by over 10 percentage points. And actually, speaking of Virginia, we are actually conducting a poll for the state of Virginia. We are currently crowd fundraising for this, and so if you do actually want to donate, I will leave the link in the description down below for you guys to be able to donate to this poll. I would greatly appreciate it. When we poll people, it is not free. We do have to pay for all the respondents, so it would be a great help if you could help us fundraise for this poll in the state of Virginia. We want to get a good idea where everything is as of right now. We did a poll in Wisconsin, showed Trump up by a point or so. We did a national poll the other week after the debate, showed Trump up by about 6 points in the national popular vote, which was very interesting. And so now we're going to go back to the video here. We can see Donald Trump is just completely at an advantage right now in the electoral college, already starting out with a win. And we see in our racial demographic breakdown, what I did is I've actually gone through demographic modeling for 6 polling companies that have the same crosstabs as the 538 model. And what I do is I essentially group them together, and I basically averaged out all the margins between all the polls when you adjust for an error compared to 2020. And this is what you get. You get Trump up 20 points with white voters. Biden's only winning blacks by 44 points. Hispanics by 9 points for Biden. Asians, Trump's actually winning that group by 6. And other voters, Trump is up with 7 points. And so when you put that on a demographic model, it actually shows Donald Trump winning the electoral college, 345 electoral college votes to Biden's 193. The only state that he doesn't win here that's semi-competitive that he's gotten close to before is Maine at large, where that state's actually a 2-point victory for Biden on this map. By the way, we can actually put the map here and see where it is. We see Donald Trump is up with 345 electoral college votes to Biden's 193. And something really fascinating about this is the states of North Carolina and Georgia are 17 and 16-point victories respectively. So they're literally in the safe Republican column. Both of them shift about 15 to 16 points to the right, presumably because Donald Trump is gaining with the African American vote in the scenarios. Notable states like California are only 11-point victories for Biden. Hispanic, shifts in the state. The state is not the most white state. It has a lot of Asians and African Americans and Hispanic voters. And since Donald Trump is gaining with that group more so than the white vote in general, you're going to see very diverse states like California, New York, Virginia, Illinois shift to the right more than states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. We can actually see here, if we go back to the demographic model, that the U.S. vote here, we can see right here it is. Okay, for 53.6% to Biden's 44.6. Now, do I think Donald Trump's going to get 53% of the vote? No, but I think he could get maybe 48. Biden gets, in the high 30s, maybe low 40s, that could possibly happen. This shows Donald Trump winning the popular vote by literally 9 percentage points, almost 9 percentage points. That's a huge win in the popular vote. And we see states like Minnesota, Virginia, New Hampshire kind of trend to the left, including Maine at large, New Mexico. Well, New Mexico here, funny enough, actually ends up voting for Donald Trump by 5 points. So that is a very large shift. That means that the state is essentially only voting 4 points to the left of the nation as of right now. That would be a very interesting development to see the state of New Mexico trend back to Republicans once again due to its very Hispanic heavy population there. We see states like Virginia be 4-point victories for Trump. Minnesota is like a 2-point win. Maine at large actually still goes for Biden by 2 points in this scenario, signaling that the state is trending to the left massively, but it could go Republican because of third-party candidate support. We also see in the state of New Jersey that it is a tilt Democrat margin according to my demographic modeling. That is a very fascinating development out of the state of New Jersey. We actually see the state vote tilt Democrat right now. Gold Crown Politics actually updated his forecast to have Donald Trump winning the state of New Jersey. I have not done so yet because right now it is still a 2.5-point margin in my demographic / model forecast, but here it actually is tilt Democrat, and New Hampshire is actually really close too. It's a tilt Republican state here, and you got to understand something. Donald Trump only gains 3 points with white voters in this scenario, and states like New Hampshire and Maine at large and New Jersey have a significant white population, and so that's why these states are not trending to the right as much as some states like Pennsylvania, which is a 10-point victory on here, by the way. That is a very stunning victory. However, that does signify that the state's actually voting only like a point to the right of the nation, signaling that it is trending back to Democrats. So that is very interesting to note there as well. And so what you might say, well, there's no way that Donald Trump is going to win by this margin. You're absolutely out of your mind. Well, we actually got internal polling data leaked from the Biden campaign. Presumably the leak is so that, the Democrats could presumably get rid of him, assuming that's what they want to do. Even though I'd argue Kamala Harris would actually do worse with white voters and not improve with the African and Hispanic vote, and actually probably do worse than the map you actually see right here. But we see here states like Colorado, 1.9%. That matches the demographic model. Maine at large still votes for Biden. Minnesota here actually still votes for Biden. Funny enough, I find that pretty interesting, actually. A state like New Mexico was already voting for Joe Biden before the debate. After the debate, Donald Trump is now ahead in New Mexico and Virginia, which is interesting. And internals tend to skew one way in favor of a party, but they have to be more accurate because they need to report back to the president or whoever is the major top of the ticket of the campaign. Hey, look, this is where you're at right now. And even before the debate, Colorado 3.7, Minnesota 2 points. We see Wisconsin is a 4-point victory, while Pennsylvania and Michigan are larger victories. That would make sense because there is a more African American and Hispanic diluted population in Michigan and Pennsylvania than a state like Wisconsin. And so if those demographics are shifting to the right more than white voters, it would actually make perfect sense for these two states to vote to the right of a state like Wisconsin, for example. Nebraska second is a lean margin. Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina are all huge victories for Donald Trump in this scenario, which I think is really fascinating. And even before the debate, the polls here already had Donald Trump up in New Hampshire, which is really interesting. And now we see states like Virginia, New Mexico going into his column. And when you actually map out that electoral map, it gives Donald Trump 335 electoral college votes. That is one state off of what my demographic model is actually showing here, showing Minnesota being red here. Minnesota is still Democrat on this map, but if you were to literally flip this, you would actually get the exact same map that you would get over here, which I think is really, really fascinating, that the internal polling is even more accurate to what I actually have here right now. Internal polling for Trump actually shows the state of New Jersey actually going into Donald Trump's column, which I also think is really interesting as well. That state, there is polling showing that state is actually a leaning Republican state as of right now. However, those are Republican internals and they tend to overestimate Republicans, and so we got to take those with a grain of salt. But I could definitely see the state of New Jersey being within a point or two as of right now because of everything that's been going on. We even see in a new national poll from this company right here, we see that Donald Trump, voters that were undecided but are now voting for Trump, that's around almost 4% of the electorate. And people that were voting for Biden but are now undecided are now 6% of the electorate. That's a huge difference. You see Donald Trump has essentially really barely lost any voters. I mean, you're talking about losing 1.6% of his support. Meanwhile, he's essentially net gained. Yes, was voting for Biden, now voting for Trump. Trump has basically gained 6.5 points in support here, which I think is really fascinating to see that unfold there. And we can break it down by demographics here. We see the people that actually broke for Trump that were undecided the most were essentially non-college voters and were also Republican voters. Those are the biggest groups, and even the swing voter category was actually there as well. Most of them still stayed undecided as of right now, but we clearly see that they're in this electoral college scenario. Even presidential double haters, a lot of them that were voting for Biden are now actually undecided, which is pretty interesting. We also see here that Trump is keeping about 84% of his 2020 vote, and 2020 voters for Biden, 71% were certain that they were going to vote for Biden. 11% of Biden's 2020 vote says they were going to vote for him but are now undecided. Then it also said, no, I was undecided before the debate, still undecided. You could see it's about even, but there's a little bit more Biden voters that are actually undecided there as well. Undecided now voting for Trump, about 6% of the electorate there. So that's really interesting to see as well. So Donald Trump has really gained here. And we even see, was voting for Biden, but now voting for Trump is 3% of Biden 2020 voters. That is also a really fascinating development there, that's about 3% of the electorate there. So that is also really interesting to model out as well. So that is very, very, very fascinating to see that actually all unfold in the popular vote here. We even see that basically Donald Trump, when you basically model it out, he gained about 6 points. Biden gained about 2. Now undecideds are 6.5. Originally it was 9.2% undecided. So you clearly see Donald Trump 100% completely just destroy him on the Electoral College. So that is very, very interesting. And what's also quite fascinating here, if we actually go and look at the electoral map here, again, we see Donald Trump gain in places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, states with a heavy Hispanic and African American population. In Biden's own internal polling, more than in states like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Maine at large, New Hampshire, Colorado, Virginia, and New Mexico, which tend to have larger white populations, except for the state of New Mexico because it is a majority Hispanic state. It's just that the white liberals there tend to break pretty Democrat a lot in that state. That's why that state has become very, very Democrat. And so that is it for this video, guys. We see here internal polling shows Trump basically one state away from my demographic model, and this toss-up map is pretty accurate when you actually model out all of the demographic margins. States like New York are within a couple points. Delaware is within 7. Illinois is like a 3-point win for Biden. Colorado is like a 1.5-point victory, matching the internal polling. Oregon is only like a 5-point race. Even Hawaii is like an 8-point margin for Joe Biden in the demographic model because Donald Trump is winning Asian voters by a pretty substantial amount. And so that is it for this video, guys. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you want more content just like this, follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And make sure to go ahead and donate to this crowdfunding page for our poll. I will leave the link in the description down below so you guys can go ahead and donate to that as well. I would greatly appreciate all the support on that as well so we can poll the state of Virginia as fast as humanly possible. And I will see you guys in the next video.